So, ladies and gentlemen, Kendrick Lamar's career is over. Nah, I'm not being serious right now. Obviously, despite me not smiling, I'm just joking. Kendrick Lamar's career is gonna be just fine. However, there's a lot of statements going around. There's a lot of intrigue going around when it comes to the curious case of Not Like Us falling off of the charts this week. So, this is kind of fascinating. Kendrick Lamar's song Not Like Us just made history within the past few weeks by becoming the longest charting rap song in the history of Billboard and the Hot 100. But shortly after this history had been made, it fell off the charts completely, and there's a lot of speculation on what's going on when it comes to maybe bots, when it comes to technicalities, when it comes to rules that people don't know about. And I want to talk about all that. But before I get into that, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button. My name is Mfasis. I'm a rapper and music producer, and I do podcasts like the one you're watching right now. So the song Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, it doesn't need an introduction. Before I get into the bot allegations, I want to talk about the song itself, right? It's been over a year now officially, and the song accomplished everything Kendrick could have possibly hoped it would have accomplished. As far as the impact, you can't even really measure the impact. Like, the most important measuring stick, the most important way to measure the impact of the song itself is, did it help him win the battle? And it did in fact help him win the battle. Drake literally put out essentially the equivalent of a waving white flag right after Not Like Us with his song The Heart Part 6. And then also another thing that Not Like Us accomplished is it helped execute a very nice rollout when it comes to getting a lot of people excited about Kendrick's next album, GNX, which came out to positive reviews and commercial success. And then, but beyond that, when it gets back to the botting allegations, so many people are saying that the fall off from, because the song was literally in the top 25 on the Hot 100s, to completely falling off the charts this week. And it's making many people speculate on bots being involved. And I think the bot conversation is very complicated. It's very tricky because there is a logical explanation to what happened here, but multiple things can be true at the same time. And I get annoyed that hip-hop fans don't understand that. And not just hip-hop fans, people in the world at large, but definitely hip-hop fans. So here's the thing. Kendrick, look, when it comes to people accusing Kendrick of using bots, these people are right. Now, I know a lot of Kendrick stans, TDE stans, they don't want to hear that, but that's the reality of the situation. And it's not just about Kendrick, it's about major label artists in general, guys. All major label artists use bots. Whether it's them or their labels, a combination of them and their labels, they're using bots to juice up their numbers. Now, just because they're using bots, that doesn't mean somebody's not popular, but they want these artists to look bigger than life. They want to go the extra mile. If an artist sold 90,000 naturally, just straight off the muscle, they want to juice it up to where it looks like they sold 140,000. Doesn't mean the artist is not popular, but they are using bots, guys. I know you guys want to think that it's just Drake, but it doesn't matter if it's Drake, Kendrick Lamar, Lady Gaga, Morgan Wallen, any of these artists that are on these major labels. Guys, if you're dumb enough to think that the same machine that's pushing Drake and juicing Drake's numbers isn't pushing Kendrick Lamar and juicing his numbers, you're a fucking idiot. They're all under the same umbrella, guys. They all signed the same 360 deal, whatever you want to call it. They all use the same practices. Now, when it comes to the bot conversation, I don't think the bot conversation should take away from what Kendrick did with Not Like Us, because whether there's bots or not, Not Like Us won the battle. Doesn't matter if there was bots, bro. Like, Not Like Us overwhelmed Drake to the point where Drake put out The Heart Part 6, which is essentially just an audio white flag. I mean, you listen to this. I've never heard such a sad... I don't. There's very few hip hop songs I can remember where it starts off with just a sigh. Like there's a point in the Heart Part 6 where Drake has just such a deflating sound. He has a sigh that sounds so deflated. Like that man's spirit was broken, defeated. And but even though there may be bots, and I do think there was somebody, doesn't change the fact that Kendrick won the beef. And I wish that, again, I keep saying this, I don't like stan culture. And just like how you have Drake stands, you have Kendrick stands, you have all these stands that they take shit so personal and they don't want to look at something straight down the middle. Hopefully the people watching this can look at something straight down the middle, hopefully. But again, multiple things can be true at the same time. Kendrick body Drake, and then at the same time, I do believe that Kendrick and his label, they use bots, not just for the battle, but just in general. All these major artists use it. Now, that doesn't mean that bots necessarily are tied to Kendrick's falling off from the top 25 on the Hot 100 to not on the Hot 100 at all. We also have to keep in mind that there's this weird rule that rarely is acknowledged when it comes to Billboard charts in America, where if a song is charting longer than 52 weeks, it has to be dominant enough to remain within the top 25 in order to stay on the charts. Otherwise, it'll be immediately just removed. Basically, like, the logic, I guess, is like they don't want old songs to still somehow just linger longer than they have to, which I think it's a little weird, because when it comes to Billboard 200, I don't think that same thing applies. You see albums be on the Billboard 200s for like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7+ years. But I guess when it comes to Hot 100, it's more about the microwave element of society, where you want to hear whatever's new, you want to know about whatever's new, right? So it does still make sense. It's an odd rule, but it does still make sense, and it explains how Not Like Us fell off the charts. For the people that don't know, there's a popular country singer. His name is Morgan Wallen. He 40 of his songs just charted, and that was enough to get Kendrick out of the way, get him out of the top 25, which essentially booted him off of the Hot 100. That being said, man, it's a weird conversation, because even though there's a logical explanation, you could still make the argument that there's bots, this and that, because at the end of the day, they only wanted to keep the song in the top 25 for just long enough to break the record, and then it falls off immediately. But again, multiple things can be true. I'm a big believer that life is not black or white. Most of life is about the gray area. And this situation, I think, is the same. I see a lot of people who are Drake stans. Some of you may already guess some of the Drake stans that are out there who are running with this narrative and trying to say that, trying to essentially invalidate Not Like Us and its success and quality as a song, and say that, well, it was 100% thanks to the bots, which I don't think that's the case. I think it did have a legit impact. Obviously, to me, that's not debatable. However, at the same time, I do think that bots did play a role in the whole situation. I think Drake used bots too. Shoot, I think there's a chance when it comes to the allegations about Drake using AI, I think there's some validity to that, but that's another conversation. Either way, when it comes to the bot conversation, all of these major label artists use bots. I don't care what any of you say. We've seen too many examples of not just insiders talk about it. We've seen too many examples of artists having very questionable numbers that come out that make you question the validity of the debut. And then also, it's just too easy to bot, especially these people that are tied to these companies, that they can have their stuff botted and Spotify won't penalize them by taking it off. Either way, man, whether the song fell off the charts, it's still going to be a song people listen to all the time. This isn't going to make an actual difference. Not Like Us is still a good song. Let me know if you were surprised that it fell off the charts that dramatically. Let me know if you knew that this rule existed in the first place, where a song on the Hot 100, once it passed 52 weeks, it has to stay in the top 25, or else it'll just be completely removed off the charts. Which again makes sense, because I mean, you think about major songs throughout history, like any song from Michael Jackson's Thriller. Well, Michael Jackson, that predated streaming, but still, you get what I'm saying. Like, you think about a lot of historically iconic songs that would still possibly be on the charts if they didn't have this rule. So it makes sense. Let me know. Do you think that Drake stands are reaching by saying that this is all thanks to the bots, or do you think that it's not that serious, or do you think somewhere in between, or do you think it's something in between where there may be some bots involved, there may not be? Because again, if it's major label artists against major label artists and one or both of them use bots, I don't think that's a big deal, to be honest with you. I only think it's a big deal if it's a scenario where a major label artist is beefing with the indie artist and then they leverage those bots. That's a different conversation to me, because again, I'm not going to get into that, but that's a different conversation. But again, at the end of the day, you have two major label artists who are both botted, most likely. One had better songs, guys. That's all it boils down to. Either way, I'm kind of just flowing right now. I'm not editing this. I'm just going to upload it. Leave a comment. Make sure you guys like and subscribe.